Oh, so I thought I would choose this background to connect between what we know about yoga to what we don't know about what I'm calling as movementless yoga, like a bridge between the known and unknown. Yeah. And so I'm kind of changing the background from the blurred image to this one. Now, why is this relevant? One is to let people know that I'm making a slight change. Yeah. Another is when we are moving forward, there needs to also in some way be some visible change. So, things have changed. So when you're kind of going back and scrolling and you'll see some change. So there was this classroom background and then different kinds of backgrounds to be coming to something different. Yeah. So this is like it seems like a little bit of an update, but it's also a bit of a video log, so to speak. And this is in an attempt to make the water a little more clear. Okay. The water, or what I'm calling is movementless yoga. Okay. The matter, water, clear. Okay. Now, when we say movementless yoga, our body is already making some movements, and there is less movement that's being made by which to have the benefits of yoga. Okay. Now, for example, I can strike a pose. Yeah. Different asanas, different poses, and they all require different lots of muscle movements. Okay. Could also say so. No movement asana is like meditation. That may be the popular frame of mind, thought line. That if I'm not moving any muscle, then it's a form of meditation. But in movementless yoga, it is not, well, the word meditation itself may need to be seen differently. But if it's about, oh, closing your eyes and then doing something, then by which to then have a cooler, focused presence, then I would say that movementless yoga is like asana, pranayama, and dhyana rolled into one. Okay. So here yoga becomes simpler, a lot of things coming together because there is something that you're doing with the body. Okay. So it is less movement, or rather, that's where we would begin to get familiar with the body. And there is different postures. For example, I'm sitting here. That's a posture. I could be walking. That's a posture too. But it's not strike a pose. It's just different posture. So it's while there is movement happening. For example, say dancing. It's also movement. But you don't really call it as an asana. Yeah? So you'd say, okay, dynamic. But it's not only dynamic. I can also do that while I'm, say, sleeping, lying down. Yeah. So it's a different perspective on what yoga or what asana would mean. Yeah. And then there is pranayama in the sense if pranayama is related with breath work, then in movementless yoga, in what I'm calling as healthy natural breathing, which is another another phrase by which to refer to this method of yoga, this way of what yoga makes available, involves paying attention to breath, but a different kind of a breath. This is a breathing that the body is already doing in an alive person. So, say when we are saying inhale, exhale, and we are taking a deep breath in, deep breath out, those movements, that's breathing. But there's a difference between an alive person and a not alive person. For example, a chair. Yeah, it's a rigor mortis. But there's a difference. Yeah, between a live person, not a live person. So we pay attention to what signs of life. For example, vital signs. When you go to a doctor, there may be vital signs, heartbeat, respiratory rhythm, pulse. Those are some signs of life, vital signs. Yeah, there are others too. So what are the signs by which you say you're alive versus having life or life or something like it? Okay. And then what has you say you're healthy versus not having a disease? Now, not having a disease does not necessarily mean you're healthy. Yeah. For example, you're all comfortable, neat and nice, but have no goals in life. Yeah. That, in my perspective, in this method of yoga's perspective, is some degrees of health yet to be improved. Yeah. Also, what kind of activities you do. So those kinds of thought lines is also part of what makes movementless yoga, healthy energy breathing, a yoga with a difference. Yeah. For example, you could be having difficulty breathing because you have a potential, what you can do, but don't know how to do it or how to get to be doing that. Or you don't even know that you don't know what you don't know. And consequently, you have health the way it is. So this method of yoga comes from the realm of the unknown. And how much unknown? So humanity as a whole, there are some things that we know that we know. And there are some things that we know that we don't know. So things like what we know that we know is we know how to eat. That is, from a child, somebody took care of us long enough to have us be eat by ourselves. Yeah. Um, for example, how to coordinate our fingers to be able to feed ourselves. Things like that we know. To walk, those who can walk. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, there are some things we know. There are some things we don't know. For example, outer galaxy. Yeah. Or for example, I'm talking about movementless yoga. Yeah. Or so different people would have our own list of what we know and don't know. For example, in terms of science, we don't know about dark matter. We're still inquiring into it. We have different ideas. And uh, and then there's the idea of God. Yeah, we know, but we don't know. God is everywhere. We have different relationship with it, and then we have different religions having different ideas of what God is. Yeah. So we know that we know, and we know that we don't know. Some things we know, some things we don't know. Then there is another quadrant below, set of quadrants. That is, I don't know that I know. And I don't know that I don't know. Now, we could talk about that. For example, we know that we have a body that's human, but we don't know that we probably know how to maintain quality of health, or we don't know that we know that there is a reason for why we've come into existence. There's a potential within us that may be agreed by many of us, but we may not know what is that we already know about why we've come into existence. Okay. And then, so that would be from the I don't know that I know. I don't know that I don't know could be, for example, how to stay alive. Yeah. Or how to restore health. If health goes off, how to restore health. Um, or, for example, how to know things that we don't know. How to know what we don't know. And we don't even know that we don't know. How to know such things. It's just a thought. So we get a little uncomfortable when we don't know. Somebody asks you for the direction, you'll say, go left, go right. One way or the other, somebody will reach somewhere. But we have a difficulty even saying, I don't know. That comes from some of this thought lines. We get uncomfortable when we don't know. And we do a lot of circus so that we know. But what about things that we don't even know that we don't know? Yeah? That could be some of the things that is giving you discomfort. You could be healthy, you could be having a good life, but you don't even know what you don't know, because of which you have the life you have, others are having their life. That is their life. This is my life. Yeah? And there is no explanation for it. You don't even know what you don't know, and you don't even know what you know, and you may not know words by which to express them, and you don't even know that you need to express them. That's a uncomfortable space. Yeah? Which means that's like a seed not knowing it's a seed, and consequently don't know that it needs to grow. Okay? So it's a lack of perspective, a lot of double blind, several layers of blindness. But we can all see, for example, we have WHO's global list of diseases, and may seem like that doesn't apply to me. There are all kinds of things for them. Yeah, I know, sad, no, they are having all these problems, but it's not something that as though it applies. Yeah? Yeah. So some of the may seem like a lot of big things, but movementless yoga is where you can live from the realm of the unknown and live life in such a way that you kind of respect the known and the unknown, but more that what is already in the known becomes better. Let me repeat. Movementless yoga, healthy natural breathing, is living life such that you respect the unknown. So there are things that we don't know, but what we do know already becomes better. For example, our idea of yama, niyama, yoga, or what we're calling as Sanatana dharma, or um, how to write, yeah, or how to read, how to eat, how to breathe, how to walk, yeah, how to be human. So I can keep going on. It's like the list I can talk about, pick from any topic. So these are all things that humanity may know in to the extent that we know. And there are things that I know and I don't know. And overall, when you see, what I have discovered is, in the larger picture, when I'm talking about things like this to people from that area, there are several degrees of lack of what I'm talking about in our ways of thinking. And consequently, different industries are functioning the way they are. And we have the ease, dis-ease, our ways of behaving, our economy, the way it is. Yeah. So what I'm bringing forth here has been, there's this movie, Kalki 2898 AD. Yeah. And in it, they're talking about a system where there's a lot of technology and those kinds of things. And there's a birth of an avatar, I suppose. Yeah. And then it's a new realm kind. Yeah. So those kinds of thought lines. So what I'm doing here is, in a world functioning by artificial intelligence, I'm talking about a new kind of a technology. And there's this reference that technology, while having been functioning since some time, hasn't been able to procreate like human beings do. Yeah. And I'm talking about immaculate conception and all that. Yeah. And I'm talking about idea babies. Yeah. So we have our, for example, our different business ideas and different kinds of creatives and what sustains the test of time. Like a human being, like human being is life's pet project. What has such kind of a procreation be that universe or nature prefers that creative? Yeah, so that's a bit of a mighty advantage. Yeah, where your creatives are preferred, naturally selected, vis-a-vis other um, alternatives which may be there. Um, so I've been talking about this in some time, and that's the technology that I'm talking about. Yeah. Um, the hard problem of consciousness, it's been called, that may not be, that and this may not be related or thought as being related, but I've been calling it as Shrishti optimization and living life in the multiverse. And so it's not a thing-based thing. It's not something that you tweak a frequency and then something happens. You can try that. We've also been trying spells, like witchcrafty. That has caused, for example, witch huntings and those kinds of things. Yeah. So this is no magic, or rather, no magic technology, no magic, no. So there are several facets to it, 4 values, but original humane intelligence facilitation, meristem intelligence. It's a technology which they have made a movie about, immaculate conception, and it needs to be so original that it's not like it generates itself. Yeah. So it's not like a clone system. We have that. We have drones, clones, those kinds of things. But where, like humans, they don't create replicas of themselves. Yeah. You don't have clone babies, but a new baby. Yeah. So that takes some work. Yeah. So different stages of developing a course. So it becomes easier for you to invest, participate, and learn it because it is a learning. And I have a language for it. I call mice. Yeah. So it has a alphabet and it's our English alphabets, but how we understand our language, a common language, English, and then the phonetics, the semantics, the logic of thinking. It's integrative, but yoga itself is in different stages of being understood because the benefits of yoga may not be being seen as a technology, but you'd say yoga is not technology because as if technology is something bad and yoga is separate. In which case we don't understand technology itself. We have the idea of bits of information put together. It's like Lego pieces put it together, and you have some way by which you kind of have a reference to what technology means. Some means. But what if it's more than that? For example, how did a human body form? How did an animal body form? How did Earth form? Matter. You're talking in terms of electromagnetic force, strong force, weak force, gravitational force. And there are several other factors which we haven't had reason to think about. So how does all of this work together? So several such thought lines. And let's work. But I thought we need to begin bridging the gaps. Yeah, lots of gaps. They're there, but some of the gaps are so bridged. They're like, ooh, yeah, so pakka. You already know it. Yeah, there is no thinking about it. You already know it. Yeah, and that's the problem. You know, so we need to bridge the gaps and gap the bridges. Yeah, because you're like, given that, yeah, we form standard models from how much we know about it and how much sustainably it's working. So they're in the realm of what we don't know that we know, or it may be also in the realm of I know that I know, but we don't know what we don't know about what we already know. Yeah. So again, there's this idea of what we don't know. Yeah. And then there are things that we don't know. I'm sure I don't know that, but there are things about that too. Yeah. Okay. So I hope this gives some pause for thought. Um, in terms of, say, clinical trials and those kinds of things, they talk about double-blind study. Yeah. And so where both uh, the one who's, say, examining and the one who's being examined, so to speak, yeah, both don't know what is a sample. Yeah. So there are those ideas, and then to evaluate which is which. So, all right. So those kinds of thought lines. So movementless yoga. What are the benefits from there? So over some years, I've been practicing, and so life has been testing. While people have been doing, say, for example, there's this idea of the CCTV camera, but television has come, radio has come, internet has come, different technology, cloning, yeah, recombinant gene technology, yeah, genetics, those kinds of things. Nature has been the original, I can't say scientist, well, something more than that. If scientist means one who thinks in many ways, then yeah, nature is a scientist. More than that, yeah, it's not just putting information together, but actually bringing things together and in such a way that there is resilience, yeah, something more than that, too. So there are things we don't know about. But so not knowing an n-dimensional. So we talk about 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 10 dimensions. Here I'm talking about n dimensions. Many more don't know how many dimensions there is. And it's okay. Yeah. That gets a lot of people in the, yeah, not know. What are you talking about? Not know. So that gets us in a very uncomfortable place. Yeah. So there are 41 langanams in movementless yoga. For example, a little bit of this is need to be there, that needs to be there, that does not need to be there, definitely not. Yeah. So like those kinds of things. Yeah. So those who contact me, those who begin conversations, then slowly we begin to start bridging the gaps between what we know, don't know. At least you begin to start thinking in terms of, oh, I didn't know that I don't. Your Johari window gets a little more clearer on what is it you know, what is it you don't know, what is it you don't know that you know, what is it you don't know that you don't know. Okay, slowly, the picture becomes a little more clear. Yeah, and your ease and disease, comfort, discomfort, you become a little more clear about what is it you're comfortable with and what is it you're uncomfortable with, which is still better. Yeah. And then you can start taking actions by which you can get a little more firmer. It's called education. Yeah, Shri Vidya, or the education of how to be sustainably, time sustainably healthy, wealthy, wise, which is nature approved. Yeah. Original humane intelligence facilitation. So all the four is important. Original humane intelligence facilitation. All the four is important. It's not just, you learn, keep it with yourself, not share. So those kinds of things are there. And it's about how you do things. So what goes around comes around. You can't just simply, oh, yeah, you're just people. Yeah. So how then to pay attention to all of those different facets? So food for thought. I hope all of this content has been of value to you. Thank you so much for your interest. Good day.